I'm here with Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Peter, we had a summit in Vietnam between Trump and Kim. And if you were watching CNN and MSNBC, you may not have known that. You probably thought that Cohen was the only thing in the news. So, Peter, break down what happened in Vietnam between Trump and the North Korean leader.
I think what happened should have been expected from the get-go. Trump thinks in everything is transactional. Fine. It works in a lot of different realms, trade deals, for example. But it doesn't work in this situation. And going there thinking that everything would be resolved after a 2.5-hour meeting that's an illusion. Expecting, again, we've talked about this so many times, expecting complete disarmament as a precondition to talks is just ludicrous. Kim has those weapons for a reason. It's called a bargaining chip. And what Trump was hoping to do was foolish, unfortunately. And we got different versions of coming out. There's a North Korean version and the U.S. Version, and then actually kind of a middle version from the South Koreans. But it apparently Kim was willing to close down a facility for partial sanction relief, which is a pretty good strategy, all right, because it's called tit for tat. It's called confidence building. And there's been reports that the gray eminence, John Bolton, at the end whispered in Trump's ear and said, now chemical and biological. I mean, the full Monty here. And of course, that's just a maximalist position that was not going to go anywhere. So I think hubris played a role here. Trump wants a major foreign policy victory. He can taste it. He wants it. Okay. And he got ahead of his skis. The good thing is that now we know where the markers are in the game, and so don't repeat that. And the learning message from all of this is that it's going to be slow, it's going to be hard, and you're going to have to build confidence. Okay, I'll give it to them. They have a good personal relationship, fine. But that has nothing to do with geopolitical realities. At the end of the day, the North Koreans want maybe two things here. They want security guarantees, which the Russians and Chinese have been pushing for months and months now. And when we go back to last year, when the last round of sanctions were voted on, the Russians and the Chinese had a freeze for freeze on exercises. The withdrawal of American troops, the signing of a peace treaty, because when a peace treaty is signed, then there's no reason for American troops to be there. There's no conflict. So, and the second major area is that the Kim family is synonymous with North Korea. They want protections for themselves. All right. And that could be done. We had a guest on my program on CrossTalk last week. Her name is Ann Lee, very interesting analyst, and she said that could be arranged. I mean, a certain time period. She said, look what happened with Hong Kong. There was a certain time frame where you have two systems, one country. It's all about what unification would mean, because I think that everybody really wants that, at least on the peninsula, to one degree or another. But it was a victory for the people that don't want peace. And this is then, that's when they give a commercial interruption about Michael Cohen and basically show Trump that he's failed again. All right. And so, the Boltons and the Pompeos, and CNN, MSNBC, they're more than happy to see. See, this is what their hatred is so blinding that they are against peace. This is an extraordinary time that we live in. The good news out of all of this is that what you and I and Alexander Mercouris have said so many times, the real game is the inter-Korean dialogue. That's where the real action is, and it's really happening. We have President Moon of South Korea. He came out after the summit and basically said, okay, no agreement was signed, but we're still working together with our North Korean partners. The real question is going to be, is there, as we have said before, will the U.S. allow Kim to continue this process of reconciliation? And he's under no illusions. He has his hardliners he has to worry about too. Okay, let's be serious about this. But it's this step-by-step incremental process that's going to succeed in the end. Not just signing a piece of paper after 2.5-hour meeting. No, this is too complex, and too much is at stake here, because the North Korean regime saw what they did to Libya, and that's it. That's it. And there's no way of getting around it. And it's all about regime survival and the survival of the Kim family. And those things you have to deal with. And the U.S. it's really kind of sad, because it just shows the U.S. has just lost any kind of ability to work statecraft and diplomacy. It really is. Okay, they're good at, this administration is good at tearing up things, but they're not good at creating things. All right. And I think leaving the Paris Accord was good. I didn't see any value in it, but I would have liked to see a proposal, talking points to deal with the global environment. That's okay with me. But just walking away from everything, the Iran deal. And that's another issue that North Korea looks at, is that Barack Obama signed an agreement with Iran and you broke it. So if we sign one with you, well, you break it, or the next president break it. See, there's no confidence here, and that's why you have to start with the baby steps, incremental, and that can solve it. It was a failure, but I hope it's a learning moment that what to do next.
Yeah, it was a stepping stone. I mean, it was a failure from Trump's point of view. I think in that you're right. Trump wanted a quick deal. He wanted a quick signature. He wants that Nobel Prize. He wants to say, I solved this issue. But reality does come into play. And I think you made an interesting point. You mentioned Bolton, you mentioned Pompeo, and you mentioned the fact that the action is taking place between North and South. That's where the real action is going to take place to solve a deal.
Right.
But you have the U.S. there. Will the current team that Trump has in place, Bolton and Pompeo, will they allow a reconciliation between North and South?
Well, it depends on what you mean by reconciliation. They can't really stop the South from engaging the North. But the thing that they can't, the leverage the Pompeos and the Boltons have is the American presence in South Korea, and they're going to stay there as long as they want. And the South Koreans are going to have a hard time dislodging them if they want to do that. And there is a segment of society that does want that. But as long as they're officially a state of hostilities, the Pentagon feels safe that it can stay there. I mean, that's a nice piece of the military budget is for that region of the world. And plus, it's not really about North Korea. I mean, I don't think anybody in the Pentagon thinks that North Korea is going to start World War III. No. I mean, I don't think anyone realistically believes that. But those 28,000 or so troops they're pointed at China, and China knows it.
Yeah.
And they like that footprint there. They're used to it. It's very lucrative, and for the arms dealers, it's a good market. So forcing weapon systems on the South Koreans and making them pay for it, for example. That THAAD system, and so which a lot of South Koreans don't want. They want reconciliation. There's still people alive that remember the conflict, and they still have relatives across the border. Okay, this is a humanitarian issue as well, and this is not to put any praise on Kim and his regime. No. But it's a problem, and we have to resolve it. Okay, you have to work with people that you may despise or dislike their behavior, but that's not going to get you. It's not going to move the needle anywhere. All right, so that's what has to be done. I don't think anything really will happen in Trump's the remaining part of his term. If he's reelected, there may be a new push here, but I think that's really off on the back burner right now, and they're going to let the Koreans themselves do it, which they should, and it will be meaningful because they're neighbors, they're the same people. They have a vested interest. Okay, the U.S. doesn't. It has a geopolitical interest where it wants to keep a huge footprint in that part of the world, to keep an eye on China, to some extent on Russia as well.
What did you make of Trump's press conference real quick after the meeting, where they said he walked out of the meeting with Kim and then he gave that press conference? What do you think of the way his demeanor during that press conference? Because you've watched Trump during other whether it was Helsinki or the first meeting with North Korea. What do you make of this one?
Well, it wasn't. Well, I was going to say it wasn't the usual Trump, but in a way it was. I mean, It was not script. It wasn't scripted. That's for sure. I mean, it showed fundamental disappointment, and I wonder if what he's being advised, that it was he told that this is a doable thing, because going into it, I said this is not doable. All right. So I mean, he doesn't like to be perceived as a failure. Okay. He wants to win, and he didn't get what he wanted. And in diplomacy, you very rarely get everything you want. That's why we call it diplomacy. So I think it was a learning moment for maybe Donald Trump, that these things are not so transactional. Yeah. And plus, we both know that summits of this magnitude historically are months, even years in the making. I mean, the heads of state really don't do much negotiation. It's more a photo op after all the people underneath them have done all the legwork. All right. Okay, he's an unconventional president. He breaks the mold in a lot of ways, and he has, and kudos to him in some ways. But in this realm, it's not so easy, because you can't control all of the variables. That's the whole problem here. He couldn't control it. He couldn't cajole, which that's what he does in real estate. All right, I walk away from deals. I mean, again. I hope he takes it on board that this can work, but it's not going to work the way he thinks it's going to work. And he's going to have to put a lot more, his people are going to have to put a lot more sincerity into it, because as we've said so many times, Alex, I mean, I don't see his team wanting him to succeed.
Yeah, that's the main point. And finally, Peter, wrap it up with, you mentioned the media, and we opened up with MSNBC and CNN. Give us your thoughts on how the media handled last week. The fact that you did have such an important meeting between the U.S. and North Korea, and then you had the Michael Cohen circus. The media was I mean, they were happy. It was obvious that they were happy that Trump got no deal. They were very, very giddy. I mean, it was pretty disgusting to watch. What are your thoughts on how they acted?
They did the split screen again, I mean, it was like double whammy, failure in Hanoi and the goods on Donald Trump. I mean, the Michael Cohen, I watched a little bit of it. I mean, the guy doesn't strike me as being very bright, and he's a serial liar. Why would you believe anything he has to say about anything? I mean, ridiculous. What I think Peter Van Buren put in the American Conservative, Cohen's flip flopped. Okay, yeah. I mean. There's nothing there, all right, at all. But it shows the commitment of the liberal legacy media to want this president to fail and be giddy about watching his failure. It's changing the dynamic forever now, because there's a lack of respect for, you don't have to like the guy in the office, but it's disrespecting the office, okay? I've said for 2 years now, institutions are being destroyed, trust is being destroyed. And as far as I am concerned, watching those talking heads on CNN and MSNBC, most of them don't even really know what they're talking about at all, most of the time. Because it's just virtue signaling. Who can be more cruel? Who can go lower? That's all. It's a competition to fight to go to who's going to make the bottom first. Okay, that's not journalism. That's just advocacy, and that's all it is. And so you really didn't learn anything. All you learned about how much they hate someone. That's all you learned, nonstop. Okay, did they really go into the nitty gritty about what was negotiated, what was attempted to be negotiated? No, not at all.
They have no idea.
Not at all.
They have no clue.
No clue at all. So they have a vested interest in seeing the republic damaged, and they themselves are the worst enemy of journalism, in my opinion. And that's why we do these podcasts. Okay, that's why so many other people do podcasts, because if you look at the mainstream here, you're not going to learn anything. All you got to do is, if you watch it, it confirms what you already believe. That's what they do. They're a conveyor belt of manufactured consent. That's it. But that's not news. That's not journalism.
A conveyor belt of manufactured content. Well put. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on that subscribe button down below. Click on that notifications bell to make sure you get notifications. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up a t-shirt. Help support to the Duran. In the description box down below, you'll find links to PayPal and Patreon. Please donate to us. It really helps us out a lot. And you can get a copy of this video in audio format. Follow us on iTunes and on SoundCloud. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Thank you once
And
again.
we're gonna talk about Trudeau tomorrow.
Yeah, live show tomorrow, and we'll be covering Trudeau and a lot of other topics. North Korea, I'm sure, will also come up as well. All right, till that next time, everybody, take care.